Making some Christmas presents again, and I thought I'd make a quick video about it. And this is exactly how I made some wall plaques, hangers for Christmas using the Xtool S1 laser there, the 40-watt laser, and made them using some cherry that I harvested in my backyard and dried. So I'll go through this, how I came up with this image and stuff. But, basically you can see this X-Tool, this diode laser, really is a very easy to use laser. And this X-Tool has a design find now. So what I started by doing was going in there and just kind of looking for an image to use and, size up to what I wanted. And you can see, you can just go in there and I grabbed an image. Let's go back, and I just opened the project and started it. So it's really easy to use laser software. I think it's one of the easiest to use lasers to get going with. So there it is. I found this image in there, and I'm going to print it out on a plaque that's about, it comes out to be about 1 foot square when I'm done with the framing and stuff. So basically it's just a matter of I cut some blanks that were oversized, and then you just hit that button there, and the laser measures the material thickness for focusing, and then just goes back to there. And then you have to mark the processing area to make sure you're going to fit on the sheet, and you just have to a couple of settings in the thing, and then you just have to go to the two corners of it when you use rectangle and press the button on the machine. And before you know it, you've got the outline there. You can see that black outline is the processing area. So my artwork's inside of that. So I'm all good to go, basically. And then I'm just going to prepare it to get started. And there you can see it. So at this point, next thing you do is you go in there, and there's a framing button that you click just to double check that you don't waste a piece of material. And once everything's framed, everything's going to work, we're going to start and send it to the laser itself, the completed file. And as soon as that gets there, you just have to push the button and go. And there you can see I got my server rack batteries and stuff, and I'll be doing an updated video about them in this EG4 pretty soon. Okay, so once everything's uploaded to the laser, just press that button and let it go. Now this actually took about an hour to finish up this burning of each one of them, but you can see I got my everything rearranged here and cleaned up now so I can work again and fit in this area. And then you got the P2 right over there yet. So about an hour later, it finishes up, does the final cutout, and this is what it looks like. So everything came out perfect again, and what I did is I actually wound up running 5 of these. First one I ran a little bit light, and then the next ones I changed the settings to darken up a little bit, but perfect results on a piece of Baltic birch. And then I used some of this Rust-Oleum crystal clear to brown it up a little bit when you finish it. It gives the birch a little bit of color. And after that dried, I just lightly sanded it with some 320 grit, and now I'm going to put 2 coats of the polyacrylic on that water base. Now if you just put this on first, the background will come out very white. The birch doesn't darken at all. And this actually, by using the Rust-Oleum first, it does darken it. So 1 coat went on there, and just a real light 320 sanding, because anything else you could take some of the features off, because they're kind of 3D burned in there, so you can see on the surface of that even. It's not perfectly flat. Okay, while that's drying, I'm going to start preparing some wood. Now, this is cherry that I harvested in my backyard probably 5-6 years ago. Been drying and ready to use. I'm going to use this for the frames. So first thing you've got to do is flatten it, join it on one side. You can see it's a real pretty wood. Cherry is actually my favorite wood to work with. And once I've got it flattened on one side, I can go and make the other side parallel to it on the planer and make it ready to use. There you can see there's spots that are, high and low, and this will flatten it all out. And then I'm going to rip it to width, and I'm using this Going Make thin strip rip jig here so I can just get them all the same size without having them captured between the fence and the saw blade. And I do have the guard off my saw for this. You should really use a guard if you're going to be doing stuff like this, but it would be in the way for the video. So again, I'm just going to rip this down into the thin strips. I'm going to use, I decided I was going to use for the framing. And oh, there goes my clumsy hands again. So it's pretty, pretty easy to prepare your own wood. And then at that point, I'm going to just run them through the sander quick here just to remove any possible saw marks or anything else in there and have them all ready to, to go into the finished product. The sander is real handy to have, and I only do a couple at a time, otherwise they all wind up on the floor. So I'll take my time and just run them through a couple strips at a time. And just a thin pass just to make sure that they're all cleaned up and, exact same thickness. Then at that point I'm going to cut some miters on them, and I use this miter set gauge here to set the, I'm using that Craig miter gauge, and the buttons on that aren't perfect, so I just use this miter set gauge and it makes the miters perfect, even though it really doesn't matter because I'll show you the next step soon. And then I'm going to start cutting these to pretty much rough length. I put a stop on there. You see I cut one side, and I'm going to go back, cut the other side, and I'm a little bit over 1/8 of an inch oversized for final trimming up. So you do have to be careful, when you're cutting stuff like this, that you don't pinch anything in the saw blade, but it's really a fairly, easy job to do. So there they are, all rough cut out, nice cherry blanks, and I did cut some extra for another project too. So I decided to fit them all together. There's 4 frames here that I'm making, and then go back and just label them like 1A, 1B. And you can see when you first cut them with the saw, the miters are not 100% perfect. So what I like to do is take this this miter trimmer here, and it's just basically a razor sharp guillotine that trims them and makes them perfectly square and perfectly smooth, and they glue together perfect, and you pretty much get zero sight lines or anything in them when you use this. So that's why I left the extra 1/8 of an inch on them. I'm gonna start by taking about a 1/16 off one side. And it's pretty amazing how this thing cuts. It's really a dangerous tool. You don't want to have your finger in the way. There it is, cut a 1/16 of an inch off like nothing. Really a super dangerous tool that could take your fingers off easy. And there you can see perfect joints every time you use that. So now I did one side. I'm just going to put a stop on there. Clamp a piece of wood on there to use as a stop. And you really have to keep it from... hold it tight to the table to keep it from shifting when you first stick that blade in, and taking a little bit more of a thicker cut off, but still same thing. Perfect miters on both sides, no splinters, no ripping, no tearing, no little curve defects from the saw blade or anything. I did a video about this once before, and it's really something. If you're going to do a lot of small framing, it's really worth having. And there you can see, it's just kind of like, you do want to watch your fingers though, because this thing will cut them off in a second without even thinking about it. It's just razor sharp. So it is a very dangerous machine, but it does what it does great. So now I'll grab my glue up table here that I made years ago, and this just uses some wedge clamps to glue frames up perfectly square, and make them nice tight joints and easy to put together. So I just get everything set up to go in, and I'm going to take this little glue bottle, one of these little glue bots, and put a little bit of glue in each of the joints there and line everything up, and just push the wedges in, and everything's clamped together waiting for the glue to dry. You can see it's definitely square when you get done here. Things all perfectly square. Then an hour later, I'll just pull these out, and at this point it's glued together, but it's really not strong enough to leave that way. So I do put little pieces of wax paper under all the glue joints so I don't mess up my fixture plate there. But next thing I like to do on these picture frames is put a spline in the corner joints. So what I do is take a piece of plywood, and I stapled on a couple little strips of plywood and set it up so I can, put a perfect groove in each and every one of these. And that will reinforce the actual joint and make it so that it's strong enough that if you dropped it or something like that, nothing will break. And then I need spline material, so this is just a little extra piece of cherry that I had cut off when ripping the stock down. And I sanded it to the correct thickness to fit in the saw blade slot. And then I'm just going to make some little wedges out of it. And at this point, take the glue bot, put some glue in the cracks there, and a little silicone spreading tool I got years ago that helps to get it all spread out in there nice and even when you're doing the splines. They're handy to have. And then just press them in. So it doesn't take long to get them in, and I'll just leave that sit for an hour. And at that point, I'm going to go back and put a flush trim bit on the router table. Use a guide pin to get going there, and it's a ball bearing guided bit, so I'll just follow the edge and trim those pieces off nice. You can see they come out flush, and you do want to make sure that you're always cutting into the grain like that. So I flipped the frame to do the opposite sides. And this is a quick, easy way to trim them without sanding stuff cockeyed. And, sometimes if you try to sand them down, the whole frame will come out twisted and not flat. Then I've got to put a rabbet on the back side of it for putting the picture into. Now, I tell you what, having this good router table is really pretty amazing. All automatic, I can raise it, lower it, and change bits easily and stuff. Definitely worth, taking the time to build something like this. And there's a rabbet bit that I'm going to use, just a generic one. And put the guard in there. I'm trying to keep the guard close because I'm cutting these freehand, so I'm going to wind up with a mess of sawdust. I can't really use the vacuum to pull it down or anything, so I'm going to wind up with a mess on these. And I set the depth of that rabbet about a 1/16 less than the actual depth that I want, because you can see when you go around this way and you do a standard cut with a router, it does tear out a little bit here and there. And there's the first pass. I'll do them all like this first. And now I'm going to go back and do a second pass, bring that up to the final depth, and just take a real fine cut. And I'm going to start doing a climb cut with the router, just really light around the edge first so there's no chip out. And then I'm going to go back and just change to a radius bit with a little 1/8" radius around the outside of the frame, front and back there, just to keep it from getting damaged. So there it is, frame's done. They don't take long to make. Came out real nice. At this point comes the worst part of the job, sanding. You have to make sure you get in the corner, sand off any glue that got in there, and just just sand until you don't see any more bad spots. So that all the other, coarser grit sandpaper marks are gone, and I go down to about 220 usually on these. So I got some of these Velcro attached foam sanding blocks that I love. And then I actually just use the orbital sander to take all my pencil marks off that I originally put on to index everything. At this point, I'm just going to put some cutting board oil on first. Trying to keep these non-toxic, not smelly, and easy to maintain. I really don't want want to use any kind of a toxic finish. And this stuff will let them actually the cherry darken up over time a little bit too. So I put a coat on all of them, and I'm going to let that dry for, a couple hours, and then go back and just kind of buff it off. And then I'm going to put a coat of wood wax on each one. Actually, I'm going to put a couple coats on. Put at least 2 to 3 coats on here just to protect the wood. Keep it from, holding dust and stuff like that. You can see it does take a nice amber color with that. And that buffs out nice. Then to put the pictures in the frames, I kind of centered them up, and I'm just going to use a hot glue gun. I was going to use some little pin nails, but I didn't have short enough ones, and I decided, well, I might as well just try this. This is a quick, easy way to do it, I think. A little bit messy, but it worked good in the end, so I'm happy. And once they're all together, I'm going to throw one more thin coat of the wax on there. Just basically, it's a beeswax with a couple of oils in it. And final thing is to put a hanger on the back of it. These are just those little cheap hangers you get in the hardware store. And my fingers are too fat to hold those tiny nails, so I just use a pair of long nose pliers. So I don't get any smashed fingernails, and just tap them in there. And line it up, do the other one. Even with the long nose pliers, it can slip around. But it's an easy way to hold short nails when you don't want to, smash your fingers and stuff. Now I'm just trying to get this thing on here precisely now, so that thing, you have to make sure that's pretty much centered exactly in V. And there it is. First one's done. 3 more to finish up. So finally they're all done. And you can see it was a pretty easy project. The laser really did a beautiful job on it. And these will be, nice wall hangings I'm going to give as gifts. And actually made one for my wife too. So just wanted to show you just how easy it is to make something like this. It does take some machinery, but once you get that, you'll do all kinds of projects too. So that's what they came out looking like. And thanks for watching. Please like and subscribe.